I'm actually not sure how many times I've tried to record this now, but every time it's been kind of utter chaos in the house. Like the bird will start screaming, the cats will start meowing, or all kinds of crazy stuff. So hopefully we're going to get into it now, and I'm going to be able to tell you all about my experience knitting the Hope Top by Gudrun Fesl. So welcome back to the channel. My name is Andrea, and this is Prairie Dog and the Raven. I am the prairie dog, and my husband Jeremy is the raven, and we're both kind of beginner knitters, and so we wanted to keep track of all of our knits from the very beginning when we started knitting. And so this is Knit Notes, episode 6, so it's going to be about my experience knitting the Hope Top, like I said before. And I just want to make sure that as I go along in my knitting journey, I kind of know how I did on different things. And so if you're new to the Knit Notes episodes, basically I just take my knit journal and go through all of my specs from the pattern that I knit, any techniques and stuff that are new to me, what I liked about the garment, what I didn't like about the garment, and all of that kind of thing. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get into it. All right, so let's get into my notes. As I said before, uh, Hope Top by Gudrun Fesl is the designer. I cast this on August 4th of 2026 and finished it August 18th of 2026. And I did make a gauge swatch. Actually, I made two. This is the second one. The pattern is very specific, and it tells you your row gauge needs to be kind of very close to exact, because the top part, from the shoulder down, is knit by a certain amount of rows and not necessarily to a specific length. Like some patterns will say knit to however many inches. This one is very specific because it's a certain amount of rows. And so the first time I made my gauge swatch, my row gauge was much too large, and so I did end up having to make a second one. So I pulled the first one out and made the second one, and so it turned out really well. And let's see, the gauge of the pattern is 26 stitches by 36 rows, and my finished gauge of the garment ended up being 27 stitches by 37 rows. So to me, I think that's very close, and I was really happy with it, and I'm glad that I kind of made that adjustment, made the second gauge swatch, and then changed needles. So I knit the size 4 in the pattern, which is the size large. The needles I ended up using were my Chalgu Twist red lace needles, and in size US 3, so 3.25 millimeter is what I knitted the cables and the body with, the cables being the neckline. Oops, dropping stuff here. The cables on the neckline here, and then the body ribbing, I ended up using US 2s, so 2.75 millimeter needles for the hem ribbing. The yarn I used was Sewrella yarn Cashmere sock in Now That We Don't Talk. It was from the Eras Yarn Club. It is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And the color Now That We Don't Talk is this really vibrant kind of electric purple blue color. Like, it's a nice mixture of purple and blue. In some lights it definitely looks blue, others it looks purple. But I really love the color, and I'm really, really happy with the color and the feel or texture that this garment made. So I really enjoyed the process of knitting with that specific yarn. So I used 1.63 skeins, so 163 grams, 709.1 yards, or 648.4 meters of yarn to knit this. So about, a little over 1.5 skeins of the 100-gram yarn. So that I was happy with. I had enough, and I didn't have to play any kind of yarn chicken or anything like that. So I'm kind of like flopping this around, sorry. But it's a little bit difficult to kind of show this one. But so my garment came out a little bit different, even though the gauge was kind of smaller, because usually when I use the Sewrella superwash, I say usually, I've only made like a few things out of it, but with the Sewrella superwash yarn, it tends to stretch out or grow for me when I block it. And this one, when I blocked it, I did not put any pins or anything in. I just laid it flat, so there was no stretching it, nothing like that. And it definitely still uh, ended up longer. So the intended garment measurements for this top, the circumference was supposed to be 104 centimeters for the size I knit, and the one I knit was 102 centimeters. So it was very close. I was happy about that. The strap width up here at the top, uh, it was supposed to be 7 centimeters, and it was 7 centimeters. The armhole length was supposed to be 23 centimeters, and because for whatever reason, when I use the superwash, it does get longer. It's 27 centimeters, so the armhole depth is a little bit too much in the final garment. And then it was supposed to be 54 centimeters long, and it ended up being 60 and a half centimeters long. So I'm not too mad about the length that it ended up being. The thing that I have a problem with specifically and how it changed was the armhole depth. So it's really low now. And then, like I said, the length is fine. And then just in general, the strap width ended up kind of being the same as what the garment was supposed to be. But I found out that it is not flattering on me to have that wide of a strap. So we'll talk more about that kind of in my final thoughts when we get further down in the video. So as far as my process when I knit this two pattern, and so basically you start at the top and you knit, and then as you're going, it knits the cables along the neckline and the armhole, and then so you knit the front, and then you pick up stitches and pick up the back. So I was super happy with my pickup on the front and back and how nice and seamless this kind of looks compared to some of the other tops that I've knit before. You do that, and then you finish all the cables, you join the body in the round, and then you knit a couple rows of ribbing at the bottom, and you have a choice to either knit to bind off Italian, what is it called? Italian bind off, sorry. Italian bind off or standard bind off. And I was going to do the Italian bind off, and I don't know why I changed my mind at the end and just decided to do the standard bind off. I'm not sure what my thought process was at that particular moment, but I did end up just doing a standard bind off, and I'm perfectly happy with the way it looks. I really enjoy that part. Some of the new to me techniques that I learned, this pattern has German short rows in it. So it's the first time that I did any German short rows. And so that was a really cool experience learning how to do that. I used a tutorial called German Short Rows Tutorial, quick and to the point by the Blue Mouse Knits on YouTube. And that was super helpful. And it was really easy. It's not very many short rows because it's just basically this little section here, kind of giving some shape to the shoulder area. But like I said, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It's also my very first time doing cables, and it's like a really small amount of cables. But I really enjoyed the process of learning how to do the cables, how they looked in the end, how it looks along the neckline with the cables. And I have some photos that I'll pop up in here. And then the all around the armhole, you have cables all around the armhole. So I liked my kind of first foray into learning just a small amount of cables, and so I was really happy with the amount that was in it in the pattern, and so happy with that. I didn't need to look up any instructions or a video or anything for doing them because this pattern was very clear and it made total sense to me. And depending on how people learn and things like that, it may not make sense, but for me, I didn't need to look up anything to find out anything additional about how to do these cables in this specific pattern. So I think, like I said, I didn't really change anything else. So I think the next thing is we'll just go over my final thoughts, and you may be wondering why I'm not particularly wearing this in this video. So as far as my thoughts, I love this color. Absolutely. I am so kind of enamored with this color. I wish I would have bought more of it to maybe make more things in the future. But I absolutely love this color. It is one of the probably favorite colors I've gotten in a yarn so far. And it did not, whenever I blocked it, no color bleeding, nothing like that. I did not do any kind of, I always hear people say like changing out things in tonal yarns, some kind of helical knitting or all those kinds of things. I did not do that at all. And so I'm super happy with the way that this looks all over. I'm really proud of the cables. I'm really proud with my pickups. I'm really very, very, very happy with this whole pattern and the way the garment came together, all of that kind of stuff. I think for me, this pattern is not for my body type, I guess. These I have kind of wider shoulders compared to like my hips, so because this is a very wide for me strap. It's like I said, 7 centimeters. It makes my torso look much more wide when I wear it, and then because it has positive ease. Usually, I wear garments with like basically zero ease or some negative ease because I have a very straight torso also. So I need some kind of shaping almost in a garment to where it's not just sit straight, because basically I end up looking like a rectangle, from top to bottom. And so I have some photos, like I said, I'll put in. It's not particularly as a tank top something that I would wear by itself, like as a shirt, like my Tolsta or the City by Tori U. All of those have those smaller straps, like that square neck style. They don't have this, but I do love the V neck. I also like a V neck. So this is probably something I will end up wearing, maybe with a jacket over it or a shirt underneath it or something like that. I do not think that this is particularly flattering on me as a tank top. But if that's the kind of tank tops that, or it's more like a pullover or a vest style, I guess I would say. And I've never really had any of those in my wardrobe anyway. So after knitting it, I kind of figured out, okay, that's probably not a pattern I should look for in the future, or those vest type pullovers with the wide straps at the top. So unless I can figure out a different way to style it for myself, because it's just not particularly my style, which is like makes me a little bit sad because of how much I love this top. Like I said, I'm super proud of myself with the cables, the short rows, the stitching looks really nice, the ribbing looks really nice on this top. Everything about it, I'm really, really happy with. So I guess the pattern also was very easy to follow. One of the caveats to this pattern is it's not particularly size inclusive. It doesn't go up to that kind of standard benchmark that everyone likes to hit, that 60-inch benchmark, what kind of minimum benchmark that should be basically in patterns if they want to be size inclusive. I think this one only goes up to 51.5 inches. It's not particularly, if you need a larger size than that, it's not particularly size inclusive. So I would probably try to find something different. But the pattern itself was written very well. Everything was very understandable. And so I was happy with that. But other than that, I can't really think of too many other things that I wanted to say about it. If you had any other questions or anything like that, I'll have the same kind of things I usually put in the description box about contacting the designer or seeing the pattern on Ravelry. All of my Ravelry notes, all of that kind of thing, I'll have a link in the description so you can go and see that. Jeremy is going to be doing his first knit notes. I promise this time he's going to do his on the Ziki triangle that he made for his grandmother. So that will be an upcoming knit note video. And thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you next time. Bye.